Welcome to Political Puff Radio. We have a special presentation today on the biblical name Jacob and its relation to the name SARA. SARA is a tribe that is known to be in Africa, but we find that it's also in the Americas. So we want to see how this name connects with Jacob and Israel. Our primary resources we will be using today is the King James Version Bible, the Strong's Dictionary, and the E. Bowen 1947 map from the Northwestern University Repository. So let's begin. As you can see on the screen, we have on the left a portion that comes from the Strong's Dictionary, and we have on the right writing that comes from the King James Version Bible. So we're going to be matching the numbers that you see on the screen here and comparing them to see what relations do they have with each other. So first things first, we're going to read the scripture right here. So it says Genesis 32:28, and he said, "Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince how thou powered with God and with men, and hast prevailed." So see, we're going to go back here to the word Israel right here. And these numbers right here that's to the right, H3478. And the H means Hebrew. So when you're looking inside of the Strong's Dictionary, you're looking at Hebrew 3478. And as you see on the left, that's what it says, Hebrew 3478. And as you see, it says Yisrael, and then it says Yisrael. And it lets you know it's from H8280, which is Hebrew H280, and H410. He will rule as God. Now, the issue that comes along with this part here is the factor that Israel comes from something. So we want to know, what does Israel come from? We're always looking for the prime root word for anything. So the question does come to, is this the real name of Israel? Does the name of Israel, is this the name of Israel or not? We're trying to understand this right here. So as we flip to the next page, we see also a Strong's Dictionary number here, which is 8280, which comes from Israel, or H3478 right here, and it's connected to H8280 and H410. And if we look over here to the right or left, it says SARA, or you look on the screen, some of y'all think that says Sarah, but actually that's two words, SARA. And it's a primitive root, and it means to prevail or have power as a prince. So the word SARA is where Israel comes from. SARA is a primitive root word. It's made first. Then Israel is created. So we want to understand, what is SARA. So we'll look at the next page to get a further understanding. So as you see, Israel is from H3478, and it's created from H8280 and H410. So right here, H410 is not the primitive root or the original word, and it means El, strength, as adjective, mighty, especially the Almighty, God, godly, great, idol. That's basically adding power, you could say, to the name Israel. And then you have, coming from the H410 shortened version, H352, which gives you a yield, from the same as H139, properly strength, hence anything strong, especially a chief, politically. So again, there is power being given to a word. And we look at H193 to see where this comes from, because none of these that we're reading are primitive roots, but all of it make up the word Israel. So that word will be ul, from an unused root meaning to twist. That is, by implication, be strong, the body as being rolled together, also powerful, mighty strength. So all three of these connections give power to the name Israel, but it is not the prime root of Israel. So let's look at things a little more. Well, to give you a piece, this is correct, that the H193, it is a primitive root, or the original word, because it says it comes from an unused root meaning to twist. It is a primitive word, you know. The definition for H110 seems to be a description that is relative to SARA, which is mighty or strength. And either way, it adds power to whatever name that you're trying to apply it to. H4110 and H352 and H193 are all words of power and strength. It adds strength, or adds a godly, you can say, effect when you're building a name. So you have right here Israel again, H3478. It is a recap. It comes from H2820, which is SARA, and H4110, which means to be mighty. So the issue comes to with Israel. Why are we using the word or the name Israel if Israel has a prime root name? You know, that is something worth to look into. The name Israel is not the original name for Jacob. The correct name for Israel is SARA. So we have to look at further to see what is SARA, where Israel has replaced its name. You know, a lot of us connect ourselves to be Hebrews, but we don't know necessarily, you know, where all these things come from. So where we look at this again, you know, the Bible texts say that Jacob as a prince will have power, and the Strong's Dictionary says he will rule as God. It also says on the side right there, you know, as a prince has power with God and men and has prevailed. And when you look over here where Yisrael or Israel is, it says he will rule as a God. And when you look on the right side, it says the primitive root, which means the original, is to prevail or have power as a prince. And if you notice that in Genesis it says, for as a prince how thou hast power with God. So the SARA part sits more well with the verse. You know, it's saying that Jacob will be a prince, or be considered a prince. And if you put Israel on top of it, it now says that Jacob will rule as a god. And we have to decide, was Jacob meant to be a god, or was he a regular man who was just a prince of a nation? So the original SARA name has the meaning that corresponds to the Bible text, not the modern name we have in the modern Bible translation of Israel. So we'll go here and we'll look at Israel once again. The word Israel was not applied to describe people until the mid 14th century. So we're on the online Etymology dictionary, and we're looking at Israel. And it's mid 14th century. If you can see that right there, it says a Jew, one of the people of ancient Israel, a descendant of Israel or Jacob, from Latin Islicia, from Greek Israelite, from Israel. The Middle English adjective was Israelish, or Old English Israelic, sometimes Israelitish, Coverdale 1530. So basically, as you start to see, there's even Israelite, of the 1600s. Israel doesn't seem to be used no further than the 14th century. We have to wonder, how old is Israel? And when is these changes happening? Because the etymology of Israel, which looks for the original for Israel or the original of a name, says that it comes from the 1400s. And if that's the case, then, we're not Israel. We were here longer than the 1400s. So we'll look at this next page. Our title is SARA, not Sarah. That is SARA, S-A-R-A-H is SARA, like S-A-R-A. And they're both the same. And we're going to show you a book that is from St. Jerome's Hebrew Questions on Genesis. And if you look here to the right, to the second section of the paragraph, I'm going to read it right here. It says, regarding the sense of the names, however, Jerome had affinity with Philios, who naturally followed LXX in representing the change from SARA to SARA. Phileo gives to SARA, Hebrew Sarai. So as you see, SARA takes on many different names or spellings, we can say. It takes on many different spellings, but it comes out the same word, SARA. Just like what you saw in the Strongs, that word is still SARA. It's not Sarah. You have to separate that right there when you're seeing it with S-A-R-A-H. So our reference showed that, yes, the name SARA was changed to SARA. And we're going to show you right here why it says S-A-R-R-A, who is the SARA people, in a second. But we're going to go here to another etymology. The word Israel, again, was not applied or described until like mid 19th century. So if we look at Israel again, it says Old English, the Jewish people, the Hebrew nation, the Latin Israel, from Greek, from Hebrew, ISREAL, he that strives with God, symbolically proper, conferred on Jacob and extended to his descendants from SARA. He fought, contended. So, if you look at that again, it says symbolically proper, name confirmed on Jacob and extended to his descendants, SARA. His descendants isn't Israel. Israel is a name that is put on top of Jacob to make him now look like a god. The true name of what was supposed to be there is SARA, which is a tribe of people, true enough. But it is not God people, like, deities or demigod pieces. So we have this thing with history where people are turning regular men into gods when they were just regular men and great to their families. So we'll look on further and just do a small recap right here. So H3478, Israel, is the name that was created from H2820, SARA. And H4110 means mighty, so it meant mighty SARA, or, strong SARA. H3478, Israel, is to have power as a god. H2820, the original SARA, is to have power as a prince. Those are two different things. To have power as a god and to have power as a prince is two different things. H2820, the original SARA, relates more closely to the biblical text than H3478 Israel, because the text says he will rule as a prince. The word prince is the key word right there. So I don't know how the God part got right there, because that again changes what Jacob is. Now he's looked as, a deity or something higher than just regular men. And we have to understand, when we start applying God effects to everything, you do lose the truth, because it starts burying itself with superstition. The word Israel was not applied to describe people until the 14th century. H2820, the original name given in the Strong, SARA, is the same as SARA. I mean, that is not Sarah, where you're going SAR and then RAH. That's a modern way of saying it, but that's not it. That is actually Sa space Ra. SARA. Facts. The correct name for Israel is SARA, no matter how you spell it. So we can look deeper right here. This is the Bowen 1767 map right here. And as you can see on the screen, this is West Africa, mind you, also. It's showing you SARA right here. SARRA. SARA. It's in West Africa. The same name that's being covered by Israel. But Israel isn't in West Africa on any map. SARA is on West Africa maps as of at least 1767. So one of these names aren't the true name of a people. It's a name put on a people. Israel is a name that is put on a people. SARA is the true name of a people who lived in West Africa all the way to the Americas. So then this starts to have a different change in itself once it starts making it to the Americas. But we also wanted to show you on this map, on the left, it shows, it says Felice of Kassan being a mixture of melon copse and the SARA core, or coal, right there. So that's showing you that SARA has mingled, with the actual African, is there in Africa. And for those who are super hyped on the Bible, the tribe of Judah, that we call the tribe of Judah, well, on the map it shows it as Weta. And Weta is an actual real place that you can go to even today. It's actually documented.
Spell it with a Q. They spell it with a Q now.
Yeah. But nevertheless, Weta, and Chanel was just telling me on the side that they have changed it now to almost like with a Q sound, like almost like a Quita type sound, but your Judah name was never really Judah. There is a name that Judah is covering. Basically, that's the reason why we're showing you this piece. And this is on the same map, that Judah that everybody prays in the Bible actually have another name. And if you think about this, with SARA being in West Africa and Judah being in what is like Nigeria right there, the scriptures are in the back of the Bible where the map is. It shows everything in the Middle East. And you have to understand, if you use Israel, then you're going to be in the Middle East. And if you use Judah, then you're going to be in the Middle East. But if you use the true rooted names, the real names, SARA, you will actually find them on maps that are dating back even to the 1600s. These are going back right here, so one has to make a decision. Is the story taking place in Africa, or is the story taking place in the Middle East? So this looks more like an African story, and someone is rewriting the story and placing it in the Middle East. But it seems like your SARA is Israel, and Israel shouldn't be there. It should be SARA. And your Judah is Weda, and Judah shouldn't be a name there. It should be Weda. But those two names have us currently right now thinking the story is in the Middle East. So we will go on to further understand how far did SARA stretch. This starts going into the Aboriginal conversation, most Black Americans have. This book right here is the Fort Caroline, The Search for American Lost Heritage. So in this book, we end up finding that the actual SARA tribe had made it to the Americas, and in some pieces, the book starts to say that maybe they might have originated. So there is some thought, did SARA come from America to Africa, or did they come from Africa to America? But it says right here at the top, the Saranai, this was a village on the south bank of the May River, about 4 miles upstream from Fort Caroline. The root word, here we go again, SARA, root word, suggests that it was founded by a band of SARA people from further north on the Atlantic coast, or that the SARA people originated in this area. So you have to hold right there and think about the map that we just showed you. The map shows you SARA inside of West Africa, and you have this book saying SARA could have possibly originated over here. And what that does is it starts to bring a connection that America might be the old place, Africa might be the new place, or either the factor is that our people, when it was our paradigm, traveled back and forth, mingled from the Americas to Africa, and there was, I guess you can say that was their Silk Road. It was a big trade going on through right here. But to read further, it says St. Augustine Bay, Florida. The French maps show the region from St. Augustine Bay down to Cape Canaveral, occupied by the Sorochos Indians. Hope I'm saying that right. There is a sriracha or a soroche flower in South America. The Spanish called these natives the Saraque, which possibly was derived from Saracoa. The SARA people were a dominant tribe on the northern coast of South Carolina. Their language has been lost, but apparently was more closely related to Ice than to Tumacan. So there's something to look at right here, because we're seeing SARA on a big map, and it's showing it in West Africa. And then you start looking at books, and the books is saying the SARA people originated over here in the Americas, possibly. Well, that would show that people from the Americas, tribes from the Americas, actually traveled through South America, Central America, all the way to Africa, and have mingled. So there is a big piece when everybody wants to divide the land, like our people possibly went to Africa and everywhere else and mingled amongst those people. And the SARA tribe was so strong that it actually owned a big portion of West Africa. So when we're talking about Israel, Israel has you in the Middle East. If you go to the prime root named SARA, you're like owning all of North and South America and Africa. I mean, that's a lot of land to be squished down to one area of the Middle East. All because someone put Israel on top of SARA. Our land is bigger, and we are not Israel. But to keep on with this, this reference tells us that SARA was in the North America, and they may have originated on the Atlantic coast. That's the East Coast. However, this only helps us to know that when the dark-skinned people of SARA ruled, were on all continents. So we're getting ready to see now, how far did SARA reach? Right here is a book from the Library of Congress. Subject headings. If you can see on the screen, we'll see, we're going to squeeze that in a little bit. As you can see to the right on there, so let us get this part right here. I want to show this right here. Look at all the SARAs that is on the Congress papers. Congress knows of SARA. If you look to the right, you see right there. Yeah. Squeeze that in more. Okay, so you see on the right, you see SAR Africa, or USE SARA Africa people. You see SAR, the Hebrew word. You see underneath there many SARs. But if we go down to the bottom right here, what we see is SARA Lake, Illinois. So SARA has a lake in Illinois. It keeps referencing SARA the African. If we go up even more, because I just passed one up, you have SARA of Macedonia and Serbia. SARA is going all the way up into Europe. You have SAR site in Bahrain. They are in the Middle East. If you look over here, you got it again, Macedonia. You got it showing Africa. It got you showing what place in Africa, like Gabri or not Gabri. It's showing you many places that is going on. Gambia is SARA. Here's Gambia right here. SARA is all over the place. There is even Sarab site, which is in Iran. SARA has made it over here to Sarakilio, which is in Finland. Our government knows who SARA is. Our government knows who SARA is. I'm going to be honest with you. Someone took the name Israel and covered up SARA. The name Israel covers the name SARA, and you lose it in history. But Congress still has this information. Like, this is a book you can go and find, and it's literally telling you SARA all the way up to Lake Illinois, SARA all the way up to Finland. So we got to start thinking, was SARA the ruler of a paradigm? Like we say the Moorish paradigm, but the Moorish word only means black, the black paradigm. But when you say SARA, now you're looking at a tribe or a nation that ruled from America all the way to Africa, all the way to Finland. We have to understand that we're searching for who we are and the greatness that who we are, and someone is hiding who we are. And when you go and you find this in the Strongs, this name Israel hiding who we are, and then you go and you research the name SARA and you start finding that we're everywhere. That is something to really think about. Like, we have to think about, are you truly Israel? Is there someone renaming you? But we'll look at the next page. So, I'm going to conclusion this one. What did we learn? The facts. The name Israel is not the original name for Jacob. And Jacob's descendants never called themselves Israel. These are facts. The correct name of Israel is SARA. Facts. The name, or the correct name SARA, connects to the people in the Bible. Facts. The correct name SARA is found on the Americas, possibly being their origin, Africa, and European continent. So we are really starting to feel like SARA was a huge nation. Like, we have to stop thinking, well, I'm only American and you're African, when we have to understand that an enemy has came, blotted out our names, and now separated us. But there is one word that can unite our whole black nation, and that word is SARA. We have to start looking into it. We have shown you SARA in the Strongs. We show you how it contradicts with Israel. We show you SARA on the maps. We show you where SARA is as far as where Congress is concerned. And then there's tons of literature showing you that SARA is even in the Americas and probably original from the Americas. These are things that, we have to look at as a people, that someone is guiding our identity and it's not for our best. Conclusion. At the best, the people who are called Israel today are truly SARA, and the land of Judah is Weda, and that's in West Africa. And yes, we are the descendants from all continents. Our people rule all lands. We are not just from one land, we're from all the lands. We have to understand, like I agree with a lot of YouTube peoples, we are aboriginal here to the Americas. But I think we belittle our forefathers if we don't claim the world, because we have to understand the world was all black before any other race came about. And this is the reason why you're seeing SARA like this. It ruled from the Americas, South America, Central America, Africa, all the way up to Finland. That's called ruling the world. Only place I didn't see SARA at was China or India or like Russia, but it's letting you know SARA even ruled your modern day Britain. It ruled all those areas right there. And somehow, in some way, SARA got beat back. And then that conqueror hid our identity. That's where we're at with this. The conqueror hid our identity. We're not Israel. We're actually SARA. And they wrote it in the book. They actually hid it with numbers. And if you knew how to read the Strong's Concord, you can find what they hiding from us with numbers. SARA is real people. I believe every melanin person from the Americas to Africa is all the same people, one way or another. There is one piece that I did want to do. I want Kui to explain, just on this small piece, how did we come across SARA? Like, what made us look at the word, recognize the word enough to research the word, So I'm going to go ahead and let her kind of explain that piece right there.
Yeah, what's up, world? I've been on it just, actually doing the navigation. So I'm in the family we hear. But let me elaborate on that. During our research, we were researching the word Israel and the relation to the word historically when it comes to people and just the etymology of it, the origins of it. Once we started digging into that word, using the dictionary, and it can also be found in the lexicon. There's two main biblical dictionary sources that give you Greek and Hebrew, what they call Greek and Hebrew definitions, and how they comprise each word in the text that we are given. And that's the lexicon, and that is the Strong's Concordance, and the Strong's being the most popular. We normally use, as we research, the eSword. I can bring that up so you can kind of see it. That's what it is. You can download that. Again, that's eSword. You see it here, eSword. The sword here, eSword. You can get that online. You can download it. You can also download several different free copies of the Bibles, as Push was alluding to. Our resource for this subject, of course, and 90% of all of our biblical topics, King James Version. But when we were going through it and we got to that word in the Strong's, I literally noticed that it wasn't the etymology. So I started following what we would consider breadcrumbs on inside of the rabbit hole, and just kept picking each breadcrumb up. And as I got to the final word, which was not that hard for Israel, because Israel only comes from one primary root. But then again, since it's a combination of two words, you have to research both. You can't just research one. So it took a small moment, but the reality is you can utilize the eastward, and you can go through the eastward and down on the bottom of the eastward. If you download the Strong's, and normally it comes with it, you can put that reference in, or like for instance, I'm not using this verse that was up, but I can just click on that and it's going to come up. And that's how you research that. And you really want to just look at each word and see if it's a etymology, see if it's a primitive root or if it's an unused root. A lot of times when they use the word unused root, that means it's the original as much as they know. So basically it's as primitive as we're going to get. But the prime root is very important, and since it wasn't the prime root when I got to the word Israel, you as a researcher is forced to continue to research. Once I continued to research, I got to SARA. When I got to the name SARA, it kind of just led me on a journey of trying to find this name everywhere. Normally, you can always utilize Google, and you can utilize other search engines like we have up, and you see how I have in the search bar the SARA people. I'm going to click on that. If I click on that, then I'm just going to be on a Google page, and I'm going to click on Google Books or so. And like say if I'm just bring up a word and I click SARA people here, I'm going to go on there, and then I'm going to, sometimes they hide the reference book, so I'll just go to more, and then I'll click books, and there you go. You have SARA books coming up. And we, of course, want to be as professional as possible, so we already have our links up that you can obviously Google, and you can Google and it'll bring it up on this page. You click on this page and you see how it says Google Books, and it's going to take you to that book. See Google Books here, and it's going to find the actual words that you're looking for. See, I'm looking for the SARA people, so it highlighted the and SARA and people everywhere. And this is how we were able to find this the cited resource, that reference, that's inside of the presentation on 137, page 137 of this book, Fort Caroline. And of course, it's really important for you to go through the whole entire book to acknowledge and understand the context of the book itself, so you can remain in context. But that's the way we search, and that's the way I came to several and many of the resources that we use. And for instance, this is the map.
Show them the bigger version.
This is the map that you would have. You're able to scroll in and out. As you see SARA, you'll be able to kind of come in and out even further to see. And it's an excellent resource, and you'll find this one, of course, on the Northwestern Education website. It's in their repository. It's very important to have credible resources and citate credible resources, so that way individuals can know that this is an academic subject. It is not just something that we're just bringing out of the air. This is documented. It is, of course, not talked about. It is hidden in a corner, and we need to dust the books off, because you know what? They digitized the majority of all our university libraries, so we should be taking the time to use Google in an effective way to research. And that's how we're able to research SARA. And there's many documented pieces out there, other books. There's time that we have on our hand that we need to go through, and like Push alluded to, we just need to research the name SARA. This is an open research. It has to continue. We're just happy to be able to bring some of this information that we have been able to find throughout the 6 and 7 years past that we have been delving into these subjects, and continue to do our research. And it's very important to know how to research as well. So I think that knowing how we came up with that is important.
Yep. So that's the thing that I just hope that we all can understand. We got to understand that there is a bigger hand in what our knowledge and what we know with our knowledge. Our schools doesn't really give proper history, and we have to understand that our schools, they're ran by the children of the people who conquered us. So you got to watch where you go and get your information from, and you got to go further than your school teacher in order to find who you are. Everybody wants to call us black, but like I tell you, black is an adjective. I'm a noun. I'm a person, place, or thing. So black isn't a person. And colored isn't a person, and Negro ain't a person. All those things are the descriptions of something. So it shows you that someone is hiding your identity, because literally we acknowledge ourselves by description. You're black, like if it's a race. No, we have a name, and it's SARA. And that SARA tribe was of many tribes. It's of many tribes. I don't know if there's 12 tribes, when this tribe seemed to have ruled from the Americas all the way to Finland. It seemed like it had more than 12 tribes, and they all bared this one name, SARA. So that's worth looking into. I'm gonna wind it down right here, but I would like for everybody to just take a look at this. Leave a comment to us. Tell us what you think about it. We're open for criticism. At the end of the day, we're trying to find the truth. So you can't get mad at someone who's searching. And I don't believe that the Bible can help us search as deep as we need to. Sometimes you got to come out the Bible and research on the outside of it and validate the Bible. That is something that we don't do. We don't validate it, and you can't work off faith, because as you see, Israel was covering the name SARA. So by coming out the Bible and going to a Bible dictionary, we were able to find a true fact that I can't understand why no one on the internet is even talking about. This is like insane, because it didn't take us long to find this right here. So, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen to us. We're always going to come back with more important information. We're fact-finding people. We keep the facts going. Political Puff is not just about politics. It's about the politics of our lives. So rather, if politics is affecting Black Americans' lives, and all the way down to the politics of changing your name, this is what Political Puff is here to bring out. So this is our version and our way of getting to the truth. So I want to thank you, and please leave a comment in the box about what you thought about this presentation. We accept criticism just as well. We just ask that you be factual about what you know. Don't speak with anger because you heard a change in what you believe. So with that right there, thank you very much.